Short. Strong. Espresso English.
Fuel your day. Let's learn.
You get your coffee order wrong again and the barista's already helping the next person. Do you say something? Or do you just take the lid off, stare at it, and quietly accept your fate?
Oh, I know that stare. That's the I'm too polite to cause a scene, but I'm also going to think about this for the next 3 hours stare.
Exactly that stare. And it's not just coffee, it's your roommate's dishes. It's someone cutting the line. It's a colleague who keeps talking over you in meetings.
That split-second moment, do I say something or do I just let it go? It happens dozens of times a day, and most of us have a default setting we don't even notice.
This is Espresso English, and I'm Aria.
And I'm James. This is a B1 level episode perfect for intermediate learners. But if you're a beginner, stay with us. We'll keep it clear.
Today's topic, do you speak up or do you let it slide? And we're not just talking about coffee.
We're talking about that gap, the space between being polite and actually being heard. Because those two things, they're not always the same.
Quick question before we dive in, and we want a real answer. When someone takes your seat on public transport, are you type A, you say something right away? Or type B, you find another seat and silently judge them for the rest of the ride?
Drop an A or a B in the comments. We're genuinely curious which side you're on.
And here's what we discovered making this episode. The choice you make in that moment says a lot more about confidence and social survival than most people realize.
There's actually a name for the tension you feel. It's called the assertiveness gap. And once you understand it, you start noticing it everywhere.
Stay until the end for our Word Tour 5 expressions that'll help you handle these moments in real English. Things like speak up, let it slide, and tone it down.
And later, we'll give you one tiny sentence you can use the next time you're in that frozen moment. But first,
we're guessing you're listening to this on a commute or maybe doing dishes right now. Either way, you've probably had one of these moments today already.
let's talk about it.
Let's start with a tiny scene. You ordered an oat latte, and they hand you a regular one. Your brain says, just keep moving, but your face is already doing that polite, dead-eyed smile.
And your shoulders tense up like you're about to enter a courtroom. You're holding the cup, you're scanning the room, and suddenly a 2-second problem feels like a social exam.
That's the everyday tension we're talking about. Some people speak up fast, some people let it slide, and some people do both, depending on how tired they are.
Right, and the weird part is that the outside moment looks tiny, but the inside moment can be huge. You're not just thinking about coffee. You're thinking, will they think I'm rude?
Exactly. And that fear can make you over-explain. You say, sorry, hi, excuse me, I'm so sorry. I hate to bother you, but if it's not too much trouble, and the real message gets buried.
I've done that. I once asked for a refund like I was apologizing for existing. It was not my finest performance.
That's painfully relatable, and this is where indirect communication sneaks in. We soften, we cushion, we circle around the point, and sometimes we tone it down so much that the other person barely knows what we want.
But there's a reason people do that. In many situations, softening protects the relationship. You're not trying to win a battle. You're trying to keep the room comfortable.
Sure, but comfort can turn into invisibility. If you never bring it up, the wrong thing keeps happening. The seat stays taken, the meeting keeps drifting, the roommate keeps forgetting.
And then the resentment starts collecting interest in the background. It's like a tiny debt that never gets paid.
Let's make it concrete. Imagine a shared apartment. Your roommate keeps leaving sticky notes instead of talking to you. One note says, please clean the counter. Another says, don't leave dishes. Another says, we need to talk. That can feel cold, even if they meant to be polite.
So the question isn't just direct or indirect, it's what kind of indirectness is helpful and what kind just creates distance. That's where a set of boundary becomes useful.
Say that in simple English.
It means you tell someone what's okay and what's not okay. Not with a speech, with one clean line.
Like, please don't borrow my charger without asking. Short, calm, clear. That feels different from a 10-minute explanation about trust, fairness, and all your childhood feelings.
Which, for the record, no charger deserves.
Exactly. And the middle ground is often the smartest move. You don't have to explode, and you don't have to disappear. You can bring it up with a soft start.
Like, can I check something with you? Or, could I ask about the order? That opener lowers the temperature before you make the request.
That's such a useful phrase because it buys you a second of breathing room. Your voice settles, the other person relaxes, and then the real sentence lands.
And the real sentence should be simple. I think this is the wrong drink. Or, could you ask me before using my things? The clearer you are, the less work everyone has to do.
My old style was basically a tiny novel. I thought more words made me kinder, but sometimes they just made me harder to understand.
That's the assertiveness gap in action. You're polite, but you're not fully heard. And if you're too soft for too long, people can start treating your needs like background noise.
Ouch, yes. And that's why this topic matters, not because everyone should become blunt, but because being unheard has a cost. You feel small, then frustrated, then weirdly guilty for being frustrated.
And once that cycle starts, even small moments feel loaded. A wrong drink becomes a whole story about whether you matter.
So if you've ever stared at a cup, a note, or a group chat and thought, should I say something? You're not overreacting. You're deciding how visible you want to be.
And by the way, there's a phrase for that balance. We're going to unpack it later in our word tour.
I've been thinking about that coffee line story, and I still don't love that advice some people give. Just be direct. Sounds easy until you're standing there, face hot, trying not to sound rude.
Sure, but if you never speak up, you teach people that your time doesn't matter. That's not politeness, that's self-erasure.
I have to disagree. Sometimes letting it slide isn't self-erasure. It's choosing the safer battle. If a stranger bumps your shoulder in a crowded train, maybe you don't need a speech.
But you're missing the point. If you keep letting it slide in every small moment, the habit grows. Then one day you're furious about 10 little things, and nobody knows why.
I hear that, but the problem is tone. If you bring it up badly, you can sound like you're attacking people even when your request is reasonable. That's why so many people freeze.
Then tone it down. Not the message or delivery. You can be clear without being sharp. That's the whole skill.
But isn't that exactly the trap? People already spend so much energy making it soft that the real point disappears. They apologize, explain, soften, smile, and then the boundary is still invisible.
That's fair, but a boundary doesn't have to be dramatic to work. You can set a boundary in one sentence and keep your dignity. Please don't interrupt me is short, clean, and hard to misunderstand.
Short, yes. Easy, no. A lot of people hear that and think, wow, now I'm the difficult one. That fear is exactly why they stay quiet.
And that fear is where practice matters. If you rehearse a line, your body doesn't have to invent it in the moment. You already know the words, so your brain has less panic to manage.
Okay, but let's be honest about the social cost. If you bring it up in a shared apartment, you might fix the dishes problem, or you might create tension for weeks. People don't always reward honesty.
True, but silence also creates tension. It just hides longer. Then you're not just annoyed about the dishes, you're annoyed about being the person who never says anything.
That's the messy middle, isn't it? You want to protect the relationship, but you also want to protect yourself. And that's where politeness theory comes in, because it explains why people soften complaints to protect face.
Right face means your public image, your social dignity. If you challenge someone too hard, they can feel embarrassed. So people naturally tone it down to reduce that threat.
And that sounds nice in theory, but in real life, sometimes it becomes a script for disappearing. You keep protecting the other person's comfort and forget your own.
Not if you use a soft start. Try. Can I check something with you? That tiny line gives the conversation a softer entrance without turning you into a ghost.
So you're saying the first sentence is like a door handle? You don't kick the door open, you just turn it.
Exactly. And once the door is open, you speak up with one clear sentence. The coffee's wrong. Could you lower the volume? Please, don't interrupt me. No speech, no drama.
Okay, but I want to test this. Imagine I'm the roommate and I keep leaving sticky notes instead of talking. What would you say?
Hey, can I check something with you? I've noticed we're mostly using notes, and I'd rather bring it up directly. Could we talk for 2 minutes tonight?
Stop there. That's decent, but it sounds a little like a corporate email wearing sweatpants. The phrase is clear, but the vibe is too careful.
There. So what's more natural?
Say, can we talk for a minute? I'd rather say this directly. Or, hey, can I say something quick? I need us to talk about this. Both are simple, human, and not over-explained.
Can we talk for a minute? I'd rather say this directly. Better?
Much better. Now you sound like a person, not a policy memo.
But what if the other person gets defensive anyway? That's the part people fear most.
Then you stay steady. You don't need to win the emotional weather. You just need to state the boundary and repeat it once if necessary.
So if they keep interrupting, you say, please let me finish. If the coffee is wrong, you say, I ordered something else. If the music is too loud, you say, could you tone it down after 10?
That's the real lesson. Not becoming aggressive, not becoming invisible. Just finding the middle place where you can set a boundary without sounding harsh.
And if you're still unsure, remember this. Clarity is kinder than resentment. People can handle a clear request much better than 3 days of silent frustration.
That resonates so much. And for the record, if I'm the one being interrupted, I'm absolutely borrowing, please let me finish. It's short and it has some backbone.
Good. Use it. Practice it. And next time, don't wait for the perfect moment. Just speak up before the annoyance gets too loud.
So we've got the big idea now. Speak up when silence costs you and let it slide when the issue is tiny.
And the middle ground matters most. Bring it up clearly, set a boundary, and tone it down so it lands well.
Next, we're opening the word tour where we'll take those 5 phrases apart and put them back into real life. So, after that whole emotional roller coaster, let's unpack the phrases we kept circling around. The first one is speak up, and in this episode, it meant saying something clearly when staying quiet would just leave you annoyed.
Right? It's not be loud. It's more like make your voice count. If the coffee's wrong, you speak up. If someone keeps cutting in, you speak up. The energy is calm, but the message is visible.
And there's a tiny but important difference there. When someone speaks up, they're not starting a fight. They're making a request. That's why it can feel scary but still totally reasonable.
I love that you said calm but visible. That's the whole vibe. You don't need a megaphone. You just need enough confidence that your words don't disappear into the room.
Here's a short one. I need to speak up now. 6 words, and it already sounds like a person with a spine.
Nice. Now, the one that sounds easier than it feels, let it slide. That means you decide not to react, not because you're weak, but because the issue is too small to deserve your energy.
Exactly. And that choice can be wise. If somebody takes the wrong elevator floor and you never see them again, maybe you let it slide. If your friend forgets one tiny detail, maybe you let it slide.
But the key is intention. If you let it slide because you're scared every single time, that's not a strategy anymore. That's a habit that slowly eats your confidence.
That's such a good point. So when we say let it slide, we're talking about selective peace, not permanent silence.
Selective peace sounds way better than I'm just avoiding conflict and hoping for the best.
Very true. Okay, next one. Bring it up. This is the one people use when they want to introduce a problem or a topic directly, but not aggressively.
Yeah, if there's a repeated issue, you bring it up. Maybe the group project keeps drifting off schedule, or your roommate always leaves dishes in the sink. You bring it up before resentment turns into a full internal documentary.
A full internal documentary is painfully accurate. And I like bring it up because it sounds neutral. It doesn't automatically sound angry. It just sounds like, this matters enough to mention.
Exactly. And you can do it with a soft start. Can I bring something up? That phrase opens the door without kicking it off its hinges.
That's a great image and way less dramatic than a group chat explosion. Now let's talk about set a boundary. This one is big because it means you define what's okay and what isn't.
Right? A boundary is not a punishment. It's a limit. If someone keeps interrupting you, you set a boundary by saying, please let me finish. If a roommate keeps borrowing things without asking, you set a boundary around that behavior.
And boundaries can sound gentle. You don't need a legal statement. You just need a clear line. I'm not available. After 9 is a boundary. Please don't text me at work unless it's urgent is a boundary too.
Exactly. Clear, short, and repeatable. That's what makes it work.
And now the phrase that saves everybody from sounding like a robot, tone it down. This means make your delivery softer, less intense, less sharp.
Yes, you keep the message, but you lower the volume on the delivery. If you say, could you tone it down a little, to a noisy neighbor, you're not insulting them. You're asking for a change.
And if your own words are too intense, you can tone it down too. Same boundary, different volume. That's why it's useful in real life, especially when emotions are already high.
So all 5 phrases work together. You speak up when silence hurts, let it slide when the issue is tiny, bring it up when something keeps repeating, set a boundary when a limit is needed, and tone it down so your message lands.
That's the whole toolkit. And honestly, it's not about being perfect. It's about sounding clear enough that people can actually hear you.
And if you've ever walked away from a situation thinking, I should have said something, this is your sign to practice one of these phrases the next time the moment shows up.
So today, we talked about that tiny moment when your heart jumps and your brain starts negotiating with itself. Do you speak up or do you let it slide? And really, the answer depends on the moment, the cost, and how much resentment you're willing to carry.
The big idea is simple. Clarity doesn't have to sound harsh. You can bring it up without starting a war, set a boundary without sounding cold, and tone it down so the other person can actually hear you.
My favorite part is that none of this asks you to become a different person. It just asks you to stop disappearing for the sake of being nice.
If you want a practical start, use the soft opener. Can I check something with you? Then say one clear sentence. No long speech. No apology spiral. No over-explaining.
And if your voice shakes a little, that still counts. Honestly, that's usually how real courage sounds. Mine does not arrive with perfect posture. It shows up with a little panic and a lot of hope.
Same. My first version of a boundary is usually too long, too polite, and about 12 words away from the actual point. So I trim it down and try again.
A second useful move is to decide in advance what you'll ignore and what you won't. If it's tiny, maybe you let it slide. If it keeps happening, you bring it up. That difference saves a lot of mental energy.
And if you want to practice, choose one low-stakes moment. This week, maybe a wrong order, a noisy hallway, or a delayed group message, and use one clear sentence. Keep it short. Keep it calm. Let the sentence do the work.
Before you go, we want to hear from you. Tell us in the comments, when do you find it hardest to speak up with friends, at work, or in everyday life?
We read every single comment. Thanks for listening, and next time we'll keep exploring the real English you need in messy, human moments.